Hi everybody, my name is Amanda and this is my son Donovan. Donovan was born on May 17th of this year, so he's about 3 months old. Today I just wanted to hop on to share my 3 tips for a unmedicated or natural birth and delivery. Of course, all births are natural in my opinion. No matter how you bring a child into the world is completely valid and awesome. So before I went into my labor, of course, I wanted to have an unmedicated delivery, labor and delivery. So that was my motivation going in. I did a lot of research beforehand, a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of books. So several different ways to prepare myself in advance. But I'm going to share with you the 3 things that I believe were helpful for me. And of course, I'm not a medical professional at all, so this is just my experience that I'm sharing with you, hoping that it could help somebody else out there as well. And of course, motherhood and him is the best thing that's ever happened to me. So after all of it, if you're a first-time mom, it's definitely worth it, worth all the pain that childbirth comes with. So first thing is know your why. For me, this was huge. Before I went into labor, I had this fear of catheters. And of course, that's unique to me, and not everybody knows what a catheter is or like what is. I didn't even know I had to get one. But in order to get an epidural, you have to get a catheter. So it's inserted in you to help you go to the bathroom because you can't move when you get an epidural. For me, I just didn't want that. I didn't want something else helping me go to the bathroom. It freaked me out. And of course, I know a lot of women have no choice, and I'm lucky that I didn't have to worry about that. But catheters were big for me, and I didn't want to get one. And I wanted to move around as well, so that was big for me throughout my labor. So I didn't want to have a catheter, so therefore I didn't want an epidural. And so I kept that in mind the whole time. I wanted to keep moving, I wanted to move around, and that was my why. Like, hey, I had the why in the back of my head. Some women have different whys. That was my why. And of course, having him without any medication was also on the back of my mind as well. Number 2, prepare as much as you can in advance, but be open to your labor going any way you could never imagine. So I thought, I'd go in and I'd have my water birth at the hospital because that's why I picked the hospital that we had him at with the midwife group that we had him with. I wanted to have a water birth. That was really big for me in the beginning. I'm really big on taking baths. I like the water. It really soothes me. When I broke my ankle, the warm water really soothed me. So I thought the same would be true for when I went into labor with him. I got to the hospital and I basically didn't want to be in the water that long. It was about 10 minutes and it soothed me a little bit, but when I was in labor, the pain was just so intense that you'll know. I mean, some women swear by the water and they love it. But for me, I was in there and I was like, after 10 minutes, my skin was wrinkly. I was just like, get me out of here. I need to just be in the bed. So on my side. And this was later on in the labor, but I thought I wanted a water birth. And that wasn't really in the cards for me. So just be open to your labor going any way that you can imagine. And I think me sharing my story a little bit will help you prepare yourself too, because I thought I'd go in there, have a water birth, like I said, and I labored at home in my tub a lot because I am a first-time mom, and so labor tends to be longer with first-time moms, not always, but for him, laboring with him, it was intense. May 15th, I went into labor. I had him on May 17th. It was a lot of pre-labor stuff, so me laboring in the tub, just kind of breathing through the contractions with him at home really helped because it did take a while. So I was very uncomfortable from the get-go. I got to the hospital, they checked me. I was 6 centimeters dilated, 90% effaced, which is pretty good, pretty far advanced. So I really had high hopes that he would come sooner than later, but you okay? He's just having a little cough. So back to what I was saying is I was very far advanced. I went to the hospital on May 17th in the morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't have him until 8:58 p.m. at night. So that gives you a little bit of perspective of how long it could take and how much pain it is. So preparing in advance, knowing as much of your options in advance as possible, and then also just keeping your mind in the moment and saying, you know what, this is how it is right now. This is what's best for me and best for him. Just take each moment as it comes. And, you know, for me, I knew as a person that likes to move around, it really helped me walk up and down the halls in the beginning of the hospital. Not always, because it was painful and it felt like a big watermelon was progressing down my pelvis. But you do get breaks, which is a good thing. And so having as much knowledge and preparing in advance and taking birth courses, I think is what helped me and my husband as well. We also hired a doula, which, you know, is a little bit of an investment, and you have to have money in advance. It's not something, you know, that's cheap, but you can find cheap doulas, and a lot of them work for cheaper rates than others. But a doula is basically a birth coach. They don't have any process in delivering your child or anything involved with the delivery, but they are there to be your advocate and to help you. So mine was great. She was just very calm. This is someone I needed. She helped my husband when he had questions, like, hey, what's going on right now? If I couldn't talk, she was there. She was cheering me on. She, you know, if something were to change throughout the birth, she helped with helping me realize what questions I could ask the medical professionals. So that was really helpful for me as well, having a doula there in advance. So preparing in advance with a doula. I also knew my pain medication options in advance as well. So the hospital that I had him at had nitrous oxide as an option. So nitrous oxide is, you know, it's not considered pain medication. It's like the stuff you get when you have like a root canal or something at the dentist. So it's just, you breathe it in and it doesn't affect the baby negatively at all. Excuse me. But it did take the edge off. I did have it. I did elect to have it. And, you know, you have to use the mask yourself. You have to put it over your mouth and breathe it in whenever, right before you get a contraction, right before the contraction peaks. And so it did, like I said, take the edge off a little bit. It made me less anxious, made me feel less anxious. But in all honesty, it didn't really help with the intense pain. But it did take the edge off. It brought the pain down from a 10, probably down to like an 8.5, which for me is, you know, that's better than nothing, of course, but it is a lot of work, and it's a lot of like, you know, I need the nitrous, so you have to like grab it and put the mask on, and there's just so much going on that, you know, I would recommend it to anybody that wants to try it, but I wouldn't say it was like the end all be all, like, oh, it saved my birth and labor and delivery. So that's how I prepared in advance. He eventually got stuck in my pubic bone, so I was pushing with him for about 4.5 hours. It's crazy, I know. So towards the end, they had to give me some Pitocin, which would help bring the labor further along, which it did. But he was stuck. His poor guy was stuck in my pubic bone, so they had to put an internal fetal heart rate monitor in him. In his head, his poor little head. He's okay now. But it was scary. And at one point they thought they would have to give me an epidural and a C-section, which, again, would have been fine. I just got really frustrated towards the end because I was pushing with him like crazy and nothing was happening. And I was like, I know I can push. I'm pushing really hard. He was just stuck. So they had to end up getting him out with a vacuum, which... it wasn't bad at all. I mean, him coming out was like the ring of fire was really intense. But I was just so grateful once he was out and he was healthy and safe and crying. And I was like, oh my God, what a relief. It was just a relief right away once he came out. like all the pain had just gone and I forgot about it all. But it was intense. It could have gone any which way. But in the end, I was grateful that I stuck with my decision to have a natural labor and delivery. So my 3 tips for you, of course, you don't really know. If you're a first-time mom and you're about to have a baby, it's all wonderful. It'll all be okay. But it's intense, and I can recommend just, of course, preparing as much in advance. Knowing your why and sticking with your why is really important, especially when it's easy to change your mind when you're in labor. You really can't prepare yourself until you're there in it, and it'll all be okay. And the third thing is just having tools. For me, I knew I wanted a water birth. I at least labored in the tub for a little bit. I had nitrous oxide as an option, and just kind of going with the flow. And my doula was there to support me, and my husband was there to help me as well. And now, bless you. Now I have him, and he's healthy and well, and I'm really happy that things went the way they did. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to hear more from me, I'd be happy to make another one about natural birth and anything about parenthood that you want to know. Feel free to leave anything in the comments for me, and subscribe. Thank you so much, and have a great day.